My next question is gonna lead into one issue that we want to talk about, but I'm also gonna give a little bit of fact pattern. So when you were talking about that multicultural team that you're gonna put together, you gave a shout out to both of mine. I'm Bahamian and I'm also Haitian and I'm an American too, right? And I practice immigration law. So I had a client that was in immigration proceedings for beating their kid, right? The charge was child abuse no harm. He had another issue too, but like once we added the child abuse no harm, which is a felony to it, he found himself being deported. He was actually maybe Peruvian or something like that. But from the islands, the Caribbean, South America, they believe in spanking their children. Like, what can we do with that to not have someone, who really may not understand that you can't be out here beating your kids, but that's the way they were raised. And then now he's facing deportation, could be separated from his kid forever. Like, I'm going to ask an immigration question afterwards, because that's a consideration that I think the state attorneys should take into consideration when they're making decisions about how they're going to charge. What would you do with a scenario like that where the person really just didn't know that they shouldn't do that?
I got it. I understand.
The law is no excuse, but they really didn't know they shouldn't do that.
Listen, I completely understand, and I have got an entire client base who is in the situation that your client was in. I'm currently litigating a case right now where DCF came to the house, took a look at the child, left the child in the house, gave the mom a parenting plan, everything was fine. 2 months later, state attorney's office filed a warrant against this woman, and she was held in custody for 3 months. I've seen some very egregious circumstances where the state attorney's office refuses to exercise its discretion and considered the cultural background of individuals who are being accused with this particular offense. Now, I most certainly am going to take that into account. I'm also going to take into account the fact that as I've sat down and gone through this community, I've sat down with people and have asked them, were you physically punished as a child? How do you think these cases should be addressed in the criminal justice system? And people have turned to me and said, you know what? Yes, I was physically punished, and I think I'm a better person as a result. The 17th Circuit is currently prosecuting people for doing what a significant portion of this community does, which is discipline their children. Now, listen, you know what? I don't want to really get into what the law is that parents do not have a blanket permission to discipline their children.
Absolutely.
And the case law basically says that, listen, you're running a pretty big risk when you do that, because we're letting you know that this is really a matter of degree. We need to educate people about that. We need to make sure that people in our community are understanding that this is what the law is, that here are some of the factors that come into play, but I'm going to have the discretion also to really decide when those laws should be applied and when it is appropriate parental discipline. I really want to start a dialogue about, what are the effects of physically disciplining our children? Are they good? Are they bad? Let's really start exploring this as a community. And I'm hopeful that, we're going to be respecting the cultures of the people who live here, number one. Number two, we're not going to be criminalizing people for doing what is sometimes appropriate in light of a child's behavior, or maybe some people view that not appropriate, but that's their opinion.
Right.
And we need to make sure that everybody understands what the law is, particularly in light of the fact that we have people coming to our area directly from these countries where this is completely acceptable, permissible, and approved.
Yes.